Hey, welcome back to the California Dreaming edition of Unstaged with Dave Nystrom, episode 3. And for my next guest, I asked a good buddy of mine to join us. The California kid, Mr. Eric Toms, is here. How you doing?
Hey, how you doing, Dave?
Good, man. I know, it has been literally, 3-4 years now?
I think so. I think the last time that I saw you was at the Federal Bar. No, maybe it was at your house. I think it was maybe at your house as you were packing things up to go back to Canada. And I thought, this poor sucker, what's he got up there? What, health care coverage? When do you need that? Joke's on us.
Yeah, how's it going down there with the old coronavirus kicking in? I guess everybody's dealing with the effects of it right now.
Yeah, I mean, it hasn't gotten to, like, World War Z levels yet, but strangely, you know, I feel bad for folks who are like in New York. I think like they're kind of getting it the worst. Los Angeles, one of the horrible things about LA, if your viewers don't know, is that it's so sprawling and you need to get in your car to go anywhere. Strangely, I think that's going to be our saving grace for the fact that, like, when you tell Los Angelinos to stay inside their place, like, it's pretty easy for social distancing. Like, it's not too difficult. And anyone who's ever done a live show at Los Angeles knows that Los Angelinos are really good at staying at home. So it's I think that'll be the thing that ultimately saves us, is the fact that it's just we're a lot of grumpy people who want to stay in our place anyway.
That is true. I mean, I lived there for 10 years, and you know what? It never really even occurred to me that the amount of physical distance that people keep from each other in Los Angeles, just because of the size of the city and the sprawl, and then the amount of time you just spend in your car by yourself.
Oh man, yeah, one of your friends moves to Glendale and you're like, well, I'll never see you again. So goodbye.
I lived in Studio City, as you know, in the San Fernando Valley, and I had friends who lived in West Hollywood. I'm like, oh, you should come over to the house. We've got a yard. We'll have a barbecue. And they're like, yeah, I don't know if it was like 15 minutes over the hill, and people were like, yeah. I don't think I'm gonna make it.
Yeah. Strangely, I feel like people like you and I were kind of built for this city because we were road comics for so long. So the idea of being in your car for long periods of time doesn't really put us off. Like a lot of comics are like, yeah, that's where I'm most comfortable, actually. So I have found when it comes to a lot of my friends, I'm the one going to see them.
Yeah, that was because I went to your place. You're still in Culver City, I'm guessing.
Still in the same place. Yep.
And it was from my place, depending on traffic, 45 minutes to an hour, depending. But really, like you say, because of all the road travel, it felt like a blip. Like I was, you know, it's nothing. And you came to my place many times, so.
Yeah. But having said that, I feel like our family specifically is really going to come out on top of this thing, just because my wife has a real job. And she is able to work from home, so it's like we have money coming in, and then we live in like a little nice gated community, and fairly early on there's a group of like there's just a gaggle of boys that show up at our front door, and then they come collect our sons, and then they go ride bikes for a couple of hours, and then they come back. So like the kids are happy, the wife she vacillates between freaking out and then being very peaceful and calm. So that's a little, emotional gymnastics for me, but it's fine. And then, being a writer and a filmmaker and things like that is like that aspect and like terrific, great. A bunch of time where the world literally stops and I get to work on all my projects. Fantastic. Yeah,
that's actually, I've selfishly have enjoyed this in the sense that I've wanted to do this for a while, and I was like, well, now's the time. So if I'm going to do my little show, here it is. And I'm getting a bunch of writing done, and we just moved, so we're getting the house set up. It's been fantastic. Mm-hmm. I mean, there's been a lot of deaths around the world, I guess, which is horrible, but
those people probably weren't even going to come to comedy shows.
That's true.
So who cares?
Did
any of those people buy your merch? No.
So let's jump in and talk about Eric Toms a little bit. You were an actor, producer, writer. You've done plenty of things. Your first kind of jump to the public consciousness was a show called Reality Bites on Fox Television, right?
It was Reality Binge. Yes.
Sorry, Reality.
Yes.
I'm getting my names mixed up. Reality Bites was the Ben Stiller movie. Reality Binge. That's what I even have it written down correctly here. But
Reality Bites was a film that changed a lot of lives. Reality Bites was a show that nobody saw. So they're very similar in that regards.
But Reality Binge, and it was like a precursor to Tosh.0, right?
Yes, in fact, it's strange that you bring that up. Tosh actually recorded the pilot for Tosh.0 in our studio. And so when I came to work the following week, the crew guys were so nice. They said, yeah, there was a fella in here named Daniel Tosh, and he recorded a show. But you know what? We think yours is better. And I'm thinking to myself, like, I know Daniel Tosh. I've worked with Daniel Tosh. Daniel Tosh is much better than I am. I would rather watch his show than my show. So
I'm not gonna lie, I enjoy Tosh.0. It's a solid show. But you know what? I enjoy you too.
Oh, hey, is there room in your heart for both of us?
I guess.
Yay! Can I tell a quick story that I think will really give all of your viewers a real window into Eric Thomas's soul?
Yes.
Okay, so when we first moved into our house in 2007, I noticed there were some guys who were doing some construction. They had thrown away some pegboard that you put hooks on, and then you can hang your tools on there. And I was like, I want to get my wood shop together in my garage.
Sure.
And so I asked the guys, I'm like, hey, fellas, do you mind if I grab a couple sheets of the pegboard? And they said, yeah, sure. So I grabbed the pegboard, put it in my car. I took it home. And then I waited a little while. But then set up my wood shop. It looks gorgeous now. I'm super happy with it. Let me ask you, Dave Nystrom, how long was the time between me getting the pegboard and me setting up the shop?
This is your question to me of how long do I think it took you from getting the pegboard? And this is from when you moved in. I think you set up the pegboard last week.
You're pretty much right. It took 12 years. 12 years between getting the pegboard and actually putting it up. 12 years.
Well, I've had this banner that's behind me for, I think 6 years now. So I'm, a friend.
We're in the same boat.
Yeah,
General league.
I had the idea. A buddy of mine has a print shop, and he printed it up for me at cost, which was very kind of him. And it's just been sitting in my closet until because I'm either on the road or I'm dealing with stuff with the kids, or how it goes. So
you do have 25 children.
I do. Yeah. Well, they add up quick. So. And you lose track so quickly. You think, you know what? What's one more? And next thing you know, you got a couple. What is that? What's 25? Is that Baker's? It's a Baker's.
I think that's a Baker's double a dozen.
Yeah, there you go.
There was a time I was at your house and you sat down on the couch, and then there was you heard a squeal, and then you lifted up the cushion and there were 3 kids under there, and you were like, "Who are you?" That's how many kids you have.
It's a bunch, yeah. It's a bunch, and I hide from them in my basement a lot, doing these sort of things.
That's what basements are for.
Yes. I was gonna say, now speaking of the Baker's Dozen, reminded me of something. You just completed, and now I don't know if you finished post-production on it, but you finished a film that you wrote and produced yourself called Bakersfield Noir. Correct?
Yes. I wrote it, starred in it, directed, produced it. I did crafty for it. I mean, I'm editing. It's not edited yet, so we have production is finished. So we've shot everything.
Congratulations on that. That's a if I've put some small productions together before myself. I shot a few projects along the way. Nothing along the scope of a feature film like that, but that is a gargantuan undertaking.
It was big.
Yeah, I mean, with the sheer amount of steps that you have to take just to get to the first day of filming is so overwhelming.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, first off, I will say something happened to me when it came time to do a film. The first thing was I'm a big fan of the Duplass brothers. It's Mark and Jay Duplass. If you don't know them, they're fantastic filmmakers. They have a show right now called Room 207 That's on HBO. That's an anthology show. It's very creepy and cool.
Yeah.
But I got to meet them. They got their start on the festival circuit, and I got to meet them at the Writers Guild. And they had said to me, I had been going through it because I'd put together a production company and I'd partnered with people, and then the partnership would fall through, and then the production company would close, and then you start another production company. And it just became such a mess. And Mark Duplass had said to me, he's just like, just go make your movie for $1,000. You know, $1,000 is not nothing. But having said that, if you lose $1,000, you can come back from it.
You move on with your life, for sure.
Exactly. And so I said, okay, and I researched. I'm a huge fan of independent films and low-budget films. I really like those because I love the idea of just what can you do with nothing. And there have been many filmmakers that have proven that you can do quite a bit with next to nothing.
For sure. And if, for those of you that don't know who Mark Duplass is through his films, he was also one of the stars of FX's The League, which is kind of how he came to sort of greater public knowledge, I guess. But prior to that, he had done a ton of independent films himself.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. And him and his brother were a real inspiration. And so I had researched all of these films and all of these things that very smart filmmakers had done before me. And then it was as if when I sat down to write it, a large book or something fell off a shelf and hit me in the head. And then I woke up and thought, I should have had car chases and shootouts and a dozen characters that have one line. And I just made what I feel like, looking back now, it's just a bunch of silly mistakes. Having said that, I got away with an incredible amount. I bought a car for the production. The car cost $300. And we drove it all around Los Angeles, and we had a shootout and all these things. And then I took it to a car crushing place. And if you take the car into the car crushing place, if you let them sit it out on their lot for 30 days, they pay you $200 because people are coming by and they're picking out parts. So in essence, we got the car for $100, and then on top of that, the place was very cool, and they let us film the car being crushed so we can use that footage in the movie. And in true, film nerd fashion, I brought out 9 cameras and 3 other buddies to film all of these things. One of the guys who's really cool is a guy named James Cadelia. He's part of a filmmaking brother group. It's James and Dave Cadelia. They have a company called Ghostlight. They're ridiculously talented. And they do a lot of behind the scenes for Bad Robot, which is J.J. Abrams' company. Yeah. So he had a GoPro that he had been trying to destroy, and he tried on the set of Star Wars. And then he tried again on the set of Star Trek. And so finally we took this GoPro and we mounted it inside the car as it was cubed. And we tried our best to get it out. And even the guys who worked at the car crushing place tried as well with the Jaws of Life. We could not get the thing out. So unfortunately we lost the footage. But on the bright side, he got to destroy his thing. But yeah, the idea was, in the entertainment business, and especially in moving to Los Angeles, I feel it's very easy to get lost. Meaning that if you just want to move down to LA, you're not sure what you really want to do, LA will find a use for you. That use might be parking cars, or it might be delivering food, or it might be being an editor, or it might be being a line producer. If you're not really specific about the exact thing that you want to do, you'll end up getting lost in one of these jobs, or you'll just pack it up and go back home.
That is an incredibly astute observation about Los Angeles, because I've seen that time and again, and I experienced that myself for a number of years there.
Yeah. And everyone does, because you feel like, oh, I'm making money and I'm here. I did it. And then you kind of wake up one day, you're like, this isn't exactly what I signed up for. This isn't what, the dream was before I came here. And so I realized I started getting pigeonholed into hosting and also into doing warm-up for game shows. And it's certainly nothing to, thumb your nose at. It's a good job at what I do. I make some good money. That's great. But it's not why I moved down here. I moved down here because I wanted to make movies. And so I kept deferring to people, thinking well, I don't really know. There's somebody else who knows better than I do. Somebody else has it all worked out. And I need to find that person. And then eventually, after just doing it for a while, doing smaller productions, small shorts and things, you realize everyone's kind of winging it. Everyone's just kind of guessing. So it's well, I can do that. I can kind of guess and figure it out. So that's why I decided,
Also incredibly accurate in my experiences there too. It's
there's nobody has the answers. People
No.
talk like they have the answers, but nobody knows what they're talking about.
No.
So yeah, I got some camera equipment together. I'd written a bunch of screenplays beforehand. So this screenplay I think is the 9th one that I've ever written. We wrote one together.
We did write one, which I thought was, we'll talk about after. I thought it was, still think it's a fantastic storyline.
It is the favorite story that my wife has ever read of any of my work. That is the one she still asks me about on a regular basis.
That is high praise, because I think your wife's a very smart, fantastic lady, and
she is. Yeah, she's a smart lady. Terrible choice in men.
Yes,
but other than that,
horrible. She likes me too, so I don't even know what.
That proves it.
Yeah, there you go.
But yeah, eventually it was like, okay, well, forget it. The idea it wasn't to make one movie either. The idea was to make 5. So it's like, that might take me 50 years. But if I'm just going to make one movie, I don't think that's enough. That's kind of like, as us being stand-ups, it's kind of like doing stand-up one time. It's like, well, that's fine, but you really don't know who you are as a stand-up until you're at least 5 or 10 years in. So I figured by making 5 films, I will have, maybe they won't make any money, maybe nobody will watch them, but having said that, I will be able to absolutely call myself a filmmaker. Like, if I make 5 films, yes, I know at least somewhat of what I'm talking about.
Yeah, that's a great approach, because then you're setting yourself up to continue on to, like, when you finish editing Bakersfield Noir, you won't just sit back and go, well, that's done, I made my movie. It's, obviously you get it out to the festivals, do what you need to do, but you've got those other itches to scratch, as it were.
Exactly. Yeah. And so I've kind of started working on the idea for the next one. So as I now have plenty of time to edit, I will be editing and also working on the screenplay for the next one. And the nice thing about doing a project that is way too big that you're unprepared for is you learn a ton. And I learned that this was I bit off way more than I could chew. I ultimately, I finished, and I'm very proud of the work that I did, but you see the mistakes along the way. It's like, oh, it should have been a much smaller story. I had way too many roles as a producer and as a director and as the star and as the writer and as just the grip and the gaffer and the person who was in charge of lights and equipment. It was too much, and as a result, the film itself just suffered. So now going forward, it's like, okay, for the next one, I got to have a little bit more money. So I'm shooting for $20,000 for the next one, which isn't an insane amount to raise.
Yeah.
And then much smaller cast, much fewer locations. But I think that now that I've done it once, it's like, it's kind of it's kind of like running a marathon one time. It's like, okay, it's not impossible. You can do this.
Yeah.
It's no longer a unicorn. It's just like, oh, okay, then you just put that over there, and you get a camera, and then you get some people, and that's it. And then hopefully you're increasing your quality each time. And then it would be nice if it actually became a money-making venture as opposed to a good thing for my wife and I to fight about. So that's what I'm trying to move away from. Also, it's important to say too, I did not shoot this over the course of a week or 2 weeks. We shot this over the course of a year and a half.
So just whenever you could find the free time and have the people have their free time to commit to it, and that sort of approach?
Exactly. So everyone was working for free, which was fine. But having said that, I think you and I are similar guys in that we don't want to ask more of anyone that would be asked of us. So I would have to just put out a date and then just send it to 15 people and say, does this work for everybody? And for some people it would work, some people wouldn't, and then you got to reschedule. And the scheduling is 2/3 of the producing job. That's so much of your time just goes to finding a time when a group of people can all meet and get together and work on something for a couple of hours will make you want to shoot yourself in the face.
Well, yeah, if you're not cutting a check at the end of it, it's you have to have a lot more flexibility on your end, I would imagine, right?
Exactly. And also, I think I was very ambitious from the get, because I was like, okay, every weekend we're going to shoot. And my wife very quickly said, no, you're not.
again,
so
she's
okay.
a smart lady.
one day out of the month, we're going to shoot. So every once in a while I can squeeze that to 2 months, 2 days out of the month that we would get a shoot in or something here and there. But I was eternally grateful. I mean, there were just people that showed up time and time again. And my good buddy Jeff shot the whole thing for me. He was there every single day that we shot. He was there.
Wow.
And I don't know why. I don't know why people kept coming back. But
you've got your charms. You've got your charms.
I-
Now,
they must have been wearing thin towards the end.
I probably. Speaking of filmmaking, you are the producer and host of the Night of Shorts Night, which happens the first Tuesday of every month. As soon as this whole COVID-19 thing settles down and people can actually get together in a group. Yes. That's going to fire back up, I'm guessing. But that is an evening where you showcase short films from filmmakers all around Los Angeles, or people, I'm assuming, probably come from elsewhere to bring them as well, right?
It's the vast majority of the people are LA-based filmmakers. Although we have had people come in from out of town, or people who just happened, like, would write me an email and say, like, listen, in June I will be in LA. Would it be okay if I screen this? I would say, absolutely, come by. The impetus came from if you've never had a film in a film festival, the way it works is this: is you've made your product, you have your film, and then there are certain websites that you can go to. One of the most prominent ones is called Film Freeway. And you upload a whole profile about your film, all the cast members, all the crew members, the locations, how it was shot, all the technical specs, things like that. And then what you do is you just go through a seemingly endless list of film festivals that you can submit to. And, of course, some of them are the top tier. Some of them are Tribeca or Toronto or Berlin or Sundance, Cannes. Those are the ones, the top of the top. Then there's ones that are all the way on the bottom that is just, hosted out of somebody's garage. But each one of those, just to submit, is about $60. And the idea is you submit to between 50 to 70 of those. Now, that gets extremely expensive. And I mean, we're not even talking this. You've had to put aside a budget for your short, and you spent that money. So now you're just looking at extra money just to get into a film festival circuit. And then once you get into these film festivals, you don't have any control as to when they're going to screen your festival. So it might be they're screening your short at 3 o'clock on a Tuesday. Well, nobody's going to come to that.
Yeah.
So, or what's happened with some of my work before is I have a short film. It's 10 minutes long, but it's put in a 4-hour block. So they show some shorts, and then they show a feature film, and then they show some more shorts. And it's like, I can't ask people to come to that. They would be exhausted. I wouldn't want to go to that.
Yeah. And the other thing, too, is that say you get into somewhere like the Berlin Film Festival, you got to get your ass over to Berlin, and you have to, pay all of your travel accommodations, everything, right? So you're talking about another several $1,000s.
Yeah, especially at the level that that I'm operating at. Certainly nobody is going to pay anything for me. If you're Steve Carell, you're Tina Fey, then yeah, they'll pay for you to come over and put you up in a suite and all the fun things. But no, not me. So a couple of friends, the same guys, the Cordelia brothers, and I had independently of one another finished short films. And Dave had just mentioned as a joke, "Hey, we should show these someplace." And I thought, okay, I'll put like 30% effort into this. And so I put out on Facebook and said, "Hey, is there anybody who knows of a bar somewhere that we can screen some shorts?" And somebody said, "Yeah, there's this place called the Sandlot." And I said, "Awesome." So I contacted them and said, "Yeah, we'll show your shorts. Come on over." And I said, "All right." And so I contacted a bunch of friends and got a bunch of shorts together, and then got a babysitter and made a flyer, invited all these people. We show up on the night, and the doors are locked, and the lights are out, and nobody is answering the phone. And
wow.
So then my friends start showing up, and we have no idea what's going on. and my wife and our friend Allison Ball, who you know.
Yeah, Allison's terrific.
They both say, well, hey, we're on Melrose, and if you're not familiar with Los Angeles, Melrose is a fairly lively street. There's quite a few different businesses around there, and they said, hey, we'll try and find another place. And I was honestly like kind of snarky about it. I said, yeah, you guys go find another place, another bar willing to just randomly show our stuff. 2 minutes later, I get a text, and they said, yeah, we found a place. It's called The Parlor. It's about a 2-minute walk.
I know The Parlor. Yeah.
You know The Parlor.
Yes, I do.
So we wandered down there. I directed all my friends that way, and they opened up the East Bar, which you probably know.
Yeah.
And they brought in a bartender, and we showed all of our shorts, and it was a fantastic night. And about midway through, the guy who was the GM at the time, a dude named Patrick, had said, hey, if you ever want to do this again, give me a holler, and we'll make it happen. And so I talked with James Cadelia, and I said, would you want to do this on a regular basis? And he said, yeah, sure. So we decided that's how the Night of Shorts Night was born, and we wanted to be the anti-film festival. Like, it costs nothing for filmmakers to exhibit their work. It costs nothing for audience members to come and watch. There's no voting. There's no laurels. There's no best in show or whatever else. It's just a group of filmmakers getting together in a bar, and we share each other's work, and we get to know one another, and we have a couple of drinks, and it's a super casual atmosphere. And then along the way, I tried to make it a little bit more robust, so I contacted Warner Brothers Home Entertainment and also Fox Searchlight, and wrote to them and said, hey, would you mind donating some old DVDs? Because we figured we're now in the time of streaming. Everyone's kind of throwing out their DVDs.
Yeah.
And so we thought it'd be kind of a fun, silly prize to give away. And sure enough, they sent us, probably about 100 DVDs. So now when people show up, I hand them a ticket, and we do a raffle, and we give out a bunch of DVDs that no doubt sit in the bottom of people's closets, and they collect dust. But yeah, it's the same thing. We did it at the Parlor for about 2.5 years, and then new management came in, and the Parlor is a sports bar.
Yeah.
And so once a month, a bunch of artsy nerds would come walking in through the door. And it was always terrific for me as the host, because I would be the first person that would show up. And it would be a bunch of people half drunk in jerseys, screaming. And then every once you would just see some waifish, artsy-looking person with a lost, scared look in their eye. And I would have to approach them and say, no, you're in the right place. Come with me. I think they got sick of us. They just didn't want to deal with us anymore. So they wanted to start charging, and I said, no, that's not going to happen. So, as you know, running an open mic, which is in essence what the thing was,
yeah,
I thought, well, they don't go on forever. They have a shelf life, and then they're done, and then that's kind of it. So maybe that was it. Maybe we'd gone for 2.5 years in that location. So I thought, that's a really good run. Maybe that's it. Maybe just the people who showed up, they got the experience of having to experience this thing. And then one of the people who was a regular screener at the Night of Shorts Night contacted me and said, hey, a buddy of mine just bought a bar, and it's in downtown LA, and it's called Night Bar. And I thought, well, that would be kind of perfect. And he said, you should meet this dude. And I went and I explained what we do, and he loved the idea. And the bar was very nice for the fact that we would control the bar. There was no other games being played. There was nothing else. It was in the offshoot of like a lobby of a hotel. So it's no longer us having to stream a heartwarming piece about somebody losing their mom, and then all of a sudden somebody hitting a 3-pointer from the LA Lakers. The cheers bleeding in through the walls. So it's a much better setup now. I have to say I'm really happy with it.
That's terrific. It's the Night of Shorts Night at Night Bar. I'm going to put a link underneath the video so people can go. Is there a Facebook page for it?
There's a Facebook page, there's a Twitter page, and there is a Instagram page.
Instagram. Okay, so I'll put links to all those underneath. And before we wrap up here, I know you are known as a charming fellow, a bit of a wise ass. You're always quick with a jab, I guess, as it were. But something I wanted to bring up that a lot of people some people that know you know this, but a lot of people and people that have seen you on television or in some of these films may not know is that you also donated a kidney to a very, very good friend of yours.
I did.
Yeah, which is an unbelievable gesture. When I heard it, I was floored that this was happening. Not that I didn't think you had it in you, but
this asshole? Are you serious?
No, it's just that's such an incredible thing. You hear about these things, you read about these things, but to know somebody who actually took those steps and did something like that is amazing. I'm really proud of you.
Oh, thanks, buddy.
Yeah. So it's I don't know if you want to talk about it at all or.
Yeah, it was quite a few years ago now. At this point, it was I think probably about 8 years ago. It was my best friend growing up, guy named Mike Hogan. He just randomly he'd gone on a bike ride and his legs had just stopped working. And he fell off his bike, and he luckily was with a couple of friends, and so they were able to kind of take care of him. And an ambulance came, and they took him, and they said, "Oh, well, your legs thing, that's like a calcium deficiency. But since you're here, your kidneys are working at about 60% of what they should be." And he said, "Okay." And they said, "It's nothing to worry about right now." But then things deteriorated very quickly, and he went from 60% to about 5% within, I think, a month.
Wow.
And so he was on dialysis, and which if you don't know about dialysis, it's pretty much where they take out all of your blood, clean it, and then put it back into you, which takes upwards of 6 hours. So you're sitting in a machine for 6 hours. And Mike's deterioration happened very quickly. And I would love to sit here and say, you know what? The second that I heard Mike needed a kidney, I was right there. And in essence, the second Mike needed a kidney, I said, I'm going to find a kidney. If I happen to see a kidney laying on the ground, you're going to be the first person I call, buddy. That's how this is going to happen. And so about a couple months into it, he was on multiple lists and looking, and I was like, all right, I'll give you the kidney. And I will say to anyone who's listening to this, if you have the chance to give a kidney, do it. It's, as the donor, it's really not that bad. Like the only thing you need to donate a kidney is you just need to have the same blood type. That's it. There are no other kind of restrictions. I have, outside of the initial surgery, once I healed, I have never noticed a problem or a difference in my body. The only thing that the doctors tell you is that if you've ever taken any tests, your blood sugar looks like it's a little bit higher than it normally is, but that's just because you have one kidney working twice as hard. Once a kidney is removed, your remaining kidney actually doubles in size to pick up the pace of the other one.
Really? That's
yeah.
I mean, I'd heard of kidney transplant before. I'd never heard that part of it. That's fascinating. I mean, that's incredible.
The human body's so weird.
Yeah.
But yeah, we did the procedure, and it wasn't too bad for me. I was in the hospital just for about 2.5 days. And then Mike was in for a little bit longer. And at the time, he was living in San Francisco. I was living in Los Angeles. And so I stayed up in the Bay Area for a couple of days after that, just before we had to fly back down to Los Angeles. And that trip kind of sucked. But we got down here, and then Mike was good for about 6 to 8 months. And then he'd gotten sick, and the doctors caught it right away, and they put him. They couldn't find out what it was, so they just pumped him full of antibiotics. And it was to the point where he couldn't just take pills. He literally had a bag that he had to carry around with him that was giving him intravenous shots throughout the day. And he was starting to forget things, and he was getting confused, and then they were trying to slowly wean him off of the antibiotics, and as soon as they took him off a little bit, whatever was attacking him, which turned out to be meningitis, really attacked him very aggressively, very fast, and it attacked his brain. So I I'd gotten a call from a friend who said, like, gosh, like Mike was admitted to the hospital, you better come up here. And so I said, all right, I'll head up this weekend. Started driving up on a Friday, made it up to the Bay Area about midday, and picked up a couple of friends who were going to come with me. And we got in a call. We were in San Jose, which is about 45 minutes south of San Francisco. We got called at my dead. So I never got to see him in his bad states, which is for better or for worse. The thing that they don't talk about in a lot of movies, whenever somebody gets the kidney, that's it, they're fine. The thing that people who are who are receiving any organs have to take medicine, really intense medicine, for the rest of their lives, which is anti-rejection medicine.
Oh yeah,
because
I guess that would make sense.
Your body is convinced that you have a foreign object in your body and is trying to get rid of it. So sadly, it didn't work out for him. But I will say, the one shining thing that I found is in going through this is if you have the opportunity to donate a kidney, which you can do it. It really does not have any adverse effects. I highly recommend it. And if you are just a regular person walking around, you can be an organ donor when you pass away, and then that can save up to 9 different lives. So
yeah,
please
absolutely.
donate to people.
Anybody who has not taken the time to fill out the organ donor portion of their license, I mean, I think it should be a default, and then you should sign to not want to do it, because I think a lot of people who haven't done it just didn't occur to them, or just didn't, they just kind of skip past that part.
Well, you know what? You know what's strange is when I signed up to do this, I cannot begin to tell you. I had 4 or 5 different people say, "Are you sure? You sure you want to donate a kidney? You sure you might need that kidney?" There is this weird stigma that somehow it's going to come, like this idea is going to come back to bite you. And I am here to tell you, I'm nearly 8 years in, and no, there's absolutely no adverse effects. And I think people just get scared. And so when you're looking, when you're at the DMV or whatever legal body you happen to be at, where you have to check, like, you want to be an organ donor, I think people are scared that, I better take this stuff with me. Who knows what's going to happen afterwards? Give it away.
Yeah.
Give it away. You don't need it. I
100%.
promise.
Yeah. Well, it's obviously very sad that your friend didn't make it, but that doesn't discount the gesture and the contribution that you made. So that's really fantastic. And as I say, when I saw the whole thing, I'm proud of you, man.
Thanks, man. It means a lot.
So before we go, is there anything else that you have coming up? Anything that's I know we're all kind of in lockdown right now, but anything that's waiting for you on the other side of this World War C that we're that we're dealing with?
Dude, you know what? I tell you what. In 6 months from now, World War C will be a movie starring Brad Pitt. I guarantee you, man. You copyright that right now. No, you know what? More than anything, I strangely, like I said, I've been spending a lot of time with my wife. I've been spending a lot of time with my kids. It's been great. It's actually been pretty good. I am waiting for that switch, though, from when I go from, like, happy normal dad to Jack Nicholson in The Shining. Like, I think it's coming, but we haven't gotten there yet. No, I think if you guys check it, if you're a filmmaker, especially in the Southern California area, or you happen to be in the Southern California area, Night of Shorts Night, please come check us out. And, show your film. It costs you literally nothing. And then once in about, I think a year, probably, I'll be done with editing, and hopefully we'll get a sales and distribution in place. And then, check out Bakersfield Noir. And then, if nothing else, just go ahead and find me on all the social media at Tom's Funny, like Tom's, like the shoe company, and then Funny, TOMS, Funny.
At Tom's Funny. I'll put a link under the video again as well. Bakersfield Noir, again, check it out. Night of Shorts Night at Night Bar, first Tuesday of every month. That once we're back out in the world together. And that is it, man. Thank you so much for taking the time to do this. I really appreciate it. I miss you.
I miss you too, bud.
Yeah, when the dust settles again on this whole thing, I'm gonna make a trip down to LA, and we're gonna hang out.
Sounds good to me. I love it.
All right, man. I'll talk to you soon. I love you, pal.
Love you, bud.
All right.